out to make a sequel, so it's our job to observe the rules of the sequel. Number 1, the body count is always bigger. 2, death scenes are always much more elaborate.
You just want to sit here and wait and see who drops next?
I'm not interrupting anything, am I?
Welcome back to the 10th annual Halloween special. Tonight we're talking about Scream 2, once again directed by Wes Craven and written by Kevin Williamson, and this year is its 25th anniversary. I actually got to see this movie in theaters tonight. After the extreme success of the 1996 original, just 1 year later, we got its sequel. And this film once again features Sidney, Dewey, Gale, and a bunch of new characters who are facing off against a copycat murderer dressing up as the original Ghostface. Seeing this film in theaters tonight was a really crazy experience. I've always had a fondness for the movie. I've always liked Scream 2, not as much as the original, but seeing it tonight with a theater filled with teenagers, actually, was really cool because they were all giggling and laughing and getting into all the scares. When they were romantic parts, they were sort of like snickering, and it wasn't like they were making fun of it, like they were really into it. And I loved seeing a movie from my generation really impact people of today and actually get them into it, and it felt like they were on the ride too. And all of this reminds me just how much I miss Wes Craven. I really do. I wish that I could look forward to new Wes Craven movies. He was gone way too soon. Seeing the film tonight in the theater made me like this movie a lot more than I used to. And like I said, I've always enjoyed Scream 2, but now I actually kind of love it. Like, it had a lot of great parts that played really well to a crowd. And I've never experienced that with this movie before because I've watched it so often, first on VHS, then DVD, then Blu-ray, and I've never really had that experience. But seeing it with a crowd, you can see how it was manufactured for that experience to really play to an audience. Gratefully, my audience is nothing like the audience in the beginning of this movie that Jada Pinkett Smith and Omar Epps experienced, because that's gotta be the worst goddamn theater audience I've ever seen in my life, including Smith's character. And I think Williamson was trying to make us not care as much that she's eventually going to become a victim of Ghostface by making her be one of the worst audience members in a theater ever. Just like with the original Scream, this movie has a lot of moments where the characters talk about movies, especially sequels this time around. There's film school students who debate what sequels are the best and worst, and there's people who talk about the rules of sequels, and all of these come into play in the actual film. But I actually think this film does a slightly better job than the first of balancing the meta commentary with the actual scares and separating them so that it's not too over the top. In the first film, there's tons of discussions almost throughout the whole movie about what a horror movie is supposed to be and the tropes and the cliches of the genre. In this film, it feels spread out more evenly. But speaking of those sequel debates, there's an aspect of this movie that's always really bothered me, and it's the film nerd side of me that reacts strongly to it. But early in the film, the characters are at school and they're debating what the best sequel of all time is. And people mention various things like Aliens, even though I actually think Ridley Scott's Alien is much better, before Timothy Olyphant's character says that Godfather 2 is the best sequel ever made, and everyone in class seems to agree. Later on in that film, that same character tells his buddy that The Empire Strikes Back is actually the best sequel of all time. And his friend is like, no, it doesn't count. It's part of a trilogy. It was planned. What? This part of the film has always really bothered me for a few specific reasons. Number one, just because a film is part of a series doesn't mean that the entries in said series aren't sequels. Like, what does that even mean? And second, and more importantly, The Godfather 2, which everyone agreed was the best sequel of all time, is also part of a trilogy. So the film's logic in this film nerd debate caves in within itself. And that's my big rant on the Scream 2 film nerd sequel debate stuff that I hate. I love this movie, but every single time I'm reminded of the strange inconsistencies of this debate within the film, I'm bothered by it. What's also really fun about this movie is the mystery of who the killer is. I've seen the movie a lot, but I remember the first time I saw it when I was younger, I had no fucking idea who it was going to be. And I think it would be pretty tough to predict the eventual outcome. And in case you've never seen the movie, I just won't spoil it for you. But I do think that it's fun, the way Kevin Williamson weaved his twists and turns in throughout the end, as well as the location that the final showdown takes place in and all of the fun effects and things they can do there. As usual, Neve Campbell is fantastic fantastic as Sydney. She's one of my favorite horror characters, and I'm saddened that she's not going to be in the new Scream movie. For whatever reason, it might be. I'm not going to get into all the reports that were out about money and stuff, but it just kind of sucks. That being said, there's only so many times Sidney Prescott can run away from Ghostface. I understand the series has to eventually evolve beyond that, but it's going to be strange to watch a Scream movie without Sidney Prescott. I also really love what they do with the relationship between Dewey and Gale. It's honestly kind of adorable, and it does not drag down the movie at all, and clearly they had great chemistry in real life as well, and so that really works for these characters. It's also fun that in the exact same year this came out, I Know What You Did Last Summer came out as well, which was also scripted by Williamson, and both of these movies star Sarah Michelle Gellar, albeit in this one she's in a much smaller role, but I love her sequence in this movie talking to Ghostface on the phone. There's also a fantastic suspense sequence in this movie where Sydney and her friend have to crawl on top of Ghostface to get out of a police car after a wreck. I could tell there were a lot of people in the theater who had never seen this movie before because there were tons of little giggles and shrieks during this moment of people just waiting for him to eventually pop up and stab them. It's really well done. They also do a really good job with Cotton Weary's storyline, played by Liev Schreiber, who was falsely accused of murder by Sidney Prescott previously, and there's all this drama as a result. So of course he seems like a suspect as well. Scream 2 sometimes gets a bad rap from fans, and I've never really understood why. I think it's a really well-made sequel. I think it does a lot of things new and fresh, and some things that you expect are what you expect it to be, but that's okay. I have a lot of fun watching this film, especially in theaters, and honestly my appreciation for it is heightened since that experience. Guys, thank you so much as always for continuing to watch the 10th annual Halloween special. I hope you're enjoying it so far. Look forward to more videos very soon. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.